Salutations, my friends. It's Guitars back here again. I wanted to do a quick video on the 3.24.2 patch notes that are currently holding me back from logging in right now. So without further ado, let's go over them. These are the changes for what I will assume to be the only gameplay-oriented, I guess not the only, because we did have that patch earlier that significantly changed Necropolis. But these will, okay, I'm hedging here. This is my bet. I am assuming that these will be the last gameplay-oriented changes that we'll be getting of Necropolis League. That's my swords in the ground. I could be wrong about that. Maybe they'll add another 14 new scarabs next week. But I do consider these to be the last set of gameplay changes to Necropolis. Why do I say that, you may ask? The reason is quite simple. It's because they did a similar patch in Affliction, if I can find it right here. And actually, let's keep that tab open too, because I might know, I will want to know the price of all those puzzle boxes. They did a similar patch last league where they added Voldo's puzzle box options, and then the patch after that was a bug fix patch, and the patch after that was the same. So this is what I assume to be the last significant gameplay patch to Necropolis. Could be wrong about that, but that's my bet. And I want to go over the changes because they could be significant, especially if you're farming some of these league mechanics. Probably the most significant change is we now have 7 new tools, 7 new scarabs to work with. That is the Abyss Scarab of Profound Death, the Blight Scarab of Invigoration, the Breach Scarab of Resonant Cascade. Especially interested in trying that and the Blight Scarab out, as those have been 2 farming strategies I've been playing around with this league. The Essence Scarab of Adaptation, the Torment Scarab of Possession, the Scarab of Radiant Storms, which I assume is Tempest-based. I could be completely wrong about that, but I can't imagine what else it would be based on, which is interesting, too, to think about if this is a Tempest-based Scarab, because it would be the only Tempest-based Scarab of its type. So would it have, like, its own little slot down there? I don't know. And then the Scarab of Wisps. So that's 7 new scarabs, like I said, 7 new tools to work with when we're farming maps, map-based content, of course. Should be interesting to see how those shape up the farming strategies that they are associated with. And then we have another significant change, what I consider to be a pretty significant buff to Legion, is going to be the Legion Scarab of Internal Conflict. Now has Legion monsters in area gain increased difficulty in reward for each time they are broken out. Now, it's important to note, I don't know the numbers on this, so when I say I assume this will be powerful, that is very much an assumption. I do not know for sure what's going on with the numbers there, but when we've seen rewards like this of the past, they typically are just more multipliers on your loot. So, and in case you didn't know, the Legion Scarab of Eternal Conflict's initial purpose is to just make it so that you can break Legion monsters out of stasis multiple times, and therefore create more monsters. So that spawn. So now those monsters are going to be more difficult when you break them out, but they will be giving you more loot as a result of that. I mean, before they would give more loot because you would be spawning more, I assume, but now you're going to be spawning more and they're going to be more difficult and drop more loot. It's just a more loot multiplier, and especially if you can handle the extra juice, I assume this is just going to be a straight buff to Legion, especially since a lot of Legion farming builds or clearing builds, as I am aware, they'll try to incorporate a headhunter. They eventually want to do timeless keystone or timeless jewels farming, or just farming timeless embers, timeless emblems. So they're going to incorporate a headhunter. They're going to be able to clear the Legion well. I don't know. It's just it's a cool change, I think. That was just a strict buff if you can handle the juice on the pre-existing Scarab of the Scarab of Eternal Conflict. Next, we have the Tempest of Affliction Wisps are now considered as extra content, and they will no longer be present in map areas with the Back to Basics Atlas Keystone passive allocated. I know a lot of people were using the Back to Basics Keystone to farm Tier 17 maps. I'm not entirely sure how much they were hedging on Tempests and Affliction Wisps to super juice the content. If Affliction Wisps this league function anywhere similar to the way they did last league, then that's just free juice, and especially with Back to Basics, insane more map effect multiplier, combined with all the quant that you're going to be scaling on the map, combined with the fact that it's Tier 17, which just has absurd rates of return on currency, on scarabs, on maps. This probably will be a nerf if you use Affliction Wisps, especially. Again, I don't particularly know of any farming strategies that incorporated Tempests in Tier 17s, but Affliction Wisps getting turned off, if they were being used, especially to do some super juicing on like map bosses, because I know that's how the Keystone worked. This could be a big nerf, especially to builds that were like, I guess you would call them the builds that are like creating a lot of FOMO this league. The builds that are so strong that they are able to take down a T17 map boss that has been juiced to high heavens with like back to basics and all the map effect modifiers and wisps. Those builds will no longer have the wisps imbuing the map boss. They'll still have a super juiced T17, but they won't have a wisp boss to fight against that will also not be dropping them as much loot. So I guess a very slight nerf to some super endgame strategies. I don't see this being particularly impactful, though. I don't see this as like a you're back to basics. Keystone is now dead kind of thing. I'm sure it'll still be used, especially in conjunction with tier 17s. Next, we have what I consider to be a nerf. It's the added 300 more foiled tier 17 Valdos map options that the Valdos puzzle box can yield. Now, when this happened, last time in Affliction League, people, if we can find any comments that actually say anything besides just first, people generally considered this to be a nerf, and it's for. I want to see if somebody can cite the reasons so that I'm not the only person saying this. But I'm just looking for comments on the fly here, so it's going to be a little bit difficult, especially since I'm looking for a very specific one that says, or basically what it is the way that adding more loot to the loot box works when it comes to tier 17 Valdos map options puzzle box rewards go is they give you a foiled unique, and foiled uniques mean 300 more options means you're probably less likely to get that mage blood that you were searching for last time. I'm not entirely sure about that. Of course, there are Valdo map rewards that are not just uniques. They give you other things too. So it's ultimately going to be an interesting little thing to discover. All the map options for rewards that they can yield, all the possible combinations, and especially are any of them extremely profitable? I'm sure a few of them are, but yeah, the spread on these rewards is going to be an interesting thing to discover, but getting 300 more of them will probably crowd out your mage blood. Okay, it just will. You probably will get on average less mage bloods per Valdo maps. Gambled, you should be selling these things anyways in my opinion, but to each their own. Next, we have Elder Guardians can no longer be targeted by Delirium demons, as they could fail to transition phases if they were under the effects of Delirium when the Delirium encounter ended. Part of me wonders, I didn't understand this change the first time I read it, but now I'm thinking back to those videos I was posting at the very beginning of the league, and part of me wonders if this is aimed at a fixing to the bug that was present with some Elder Guardian bosses, particularly the Constrictor and the Eradicator, that would cause those bosses to freeze up and then like not fight you, and then also not phase, and so you'd be soft locked and have to log out because you can't portal out of that instance of a unwinnable but also kind of unlosable fight unless you put Maven on it, which I guess Maven could slowly kill you down. But the Elder Guardian won't fight you, but he is unkillable. I'm wondering if this is a bug fix addressed at that. That being said, I haven't had that bug happen since I posted the very last video, the streamer client video, joking about the situation. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on with this change. It seems like it's aimed at fixing a bug. Updated description of the Abyssal Assailants challenge to clarify that the Stygian spires defeated must be those at the end of the abysses. Defeating those spawned through the All-Flame Ember of Abyss does not grant credit towards this challenge. This is just a wording update, doesn't necessarily change gameplay in any significant way. I'm just going to go right on past it. To transfigured gems are no longer displayed as a result, or rather as results, when searching for the base version of a skill gem on the trade website. I think this is just like a nice quality of life fix. I guess somewhat similar to this, though it doesn't really affect immediate gameplay. And I guess if you were annoyed searching up your poisonous concoction of bouncing and having regular ones, or I guess actually because this is the other way around. This is like if you're searching for like a 2120 regular version of a skill gem and the alternate quality keeps coming up, I could see that being annoying. So nice little small patch here that, again, I do think it will be the last gameplay update that we'll see this patch. Again, could be wrong about that, but I'm just going based off of their previous scheduling. It seems like GGG likes to do this. It does, I think, reinvigorate the league a little bit when people are like, oh my god, new stuff, even though it's I mean, there's the one angle where it's like it's just 7 new scarabs. I mean, you might not even have been farming any of these league mechanics to really take advantage of them in the first place. So what do these 7 new scarabs mean to you? But on the other hand, it's like maybe there's a new broken farming strategy to be found within those. Maybe Legion's now busted. Who knows? You never know, man. You gotta go chase, gotta go log in, right? So that's what I think of the patch. Great patch, especially with respect to the bug fixes that I didn't go over. So GG.